Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critical Conversations, where we ask the hard questions, explore critical, often sensitive issues affecting our nation, and engage people in politics, government, and civil society. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending your questions to me in advance by email or post your comments, express your thoughts, share your observations in the comment section if you're watching from YouTube or Facebook. But please remember to keep things civil. In this episode, I'll be talking to three leaders from Gerak Independent: Tawfik Tun Dr Ismail, Siti Kasim, and Chow. If you don't know about them, Gerak Independent is a fascinating movement of Malaysians who are committed to making a difference and changing the way we do politics. And you can find out more about them by visiting their website at gerakindependent.com. So let me start by bringing my guests into the studio. I want to start with Tawfik Tun Dr Ismail. Tawfik is the eldest son of former Deputy Prime Minister Tun Dr Ismail, a man that's often been described as the best Prime Minister Malaysia never had. Tawfik was MP for Sungai Benut in Johor from 1986 to 1990. He has been an outstanding advocate for moderation, tolerance, and respect for Malaysia's religious and racial diversity. Siti Kasim is a lawyer by profession. She's been a fiery and outspoken advocate for the rights of all Malaysians. Her frequent confrontations with the authorities in defense of the constitutional rights of her fellow citizens is well known. Chow is a retired advocate, solicitor, part-time law lecturer, senior vice president of Genting and general counsel and executive vice president for Air Asia. Tawfik, Charles, Siti, welcome to Critical Conversations.
Hi,
Thank
Dennis.
you.
Thank you.
I think, Siti, your mic is off.
Yes, thank you very much.
Let me start by asking you this question now. Tawfik, you were last in Parliament 30 years ago, and Siti, you were a distinguished lawyer and a human rights advocate. Charles, you retired after a successful career. Why are you going into politics now and planning to run for elections? Jump in, anybody can answer.
Okay. For me, because I want to help return power back to the people. The last general elections, we voted for a new Malaysia. We won. But then look what happened. The Sheraton move, backdoor government, we all were betrayed. Even when we won, we lost. So politicians have taken away the power of the people. Why did it happen? Because politicians were looking out only for their own interests and not the interests of the rakyat. We must make sure that that never happens again. I chose to run because I believe that Malaysians are hungry for a new breed of parliamentarians, those who would focus on the needs of the people and not the needs of politicians. So I believe we can return power back to the people.
Okay, my turn. Okay, as an activist for more than 10 years, I have seen how the NGOs in Malaysia have tried very hard, trying to get the parliamentarians to change the course of this country, recommending, suggesting, even providing samples on how to make policies and all that. All these suggestions either being put away, or thrown into the bins by the parliamentarians. They will not listen, or they will listen, some of them, during PH, especially a lot of meetings being held with NGOs and people who want to recommend changes for the country, but still nothing happened. So why I actually finally decided or agreed to stand is because I feel that the only change we can, if we want change in Malaysia, is actually via the parliament. And I want to walk the talk. I have said a lot of things. I have done a lot of actions, legal actions, and all that, but still nothing has changed. So we want new breed of politicians, young and old, in parliament, to show to the rakyat that you can only change if you put good people in parliament, because parliament is the heart of our country. They set policies, they set laws for this country, and these are the things that will chart the way of our nation. So if we actually don't actually go in and show to the public that we can actually choose directly candidates from the ground instead of going through these political parties with their warlords, in order to have good representatives in parliament, then choose independents who are worthy of your vote. So this is why I feel that we have to start somewhere. We have to actually plant the seed that we can have good people in parliament without going through the political parties. With political parties come their warlords who actually decide who is going to be put in any constituency under their flag. So that is why. Yeah.
And you, Tawfik?
Well, Dennis, I think there's a lot of unfinished business that needs to be carried out. First of all, I have a passion for this country because a lot of my family members have sacrificed their lives and their time to build this country up. And the events in the last years have shown how broken we are as a nation. And if you recall, when I launched your book, I mentioned the Japanese concept of kintsugi. Now, I think the Gerak Independent movement can be the glue that picks up all of these broken pieces of our nation, bring them back together again, and maybe make it more beautiful than what it originally was envisaged. I think there are so many things that needs to be done, and I think sometimes you look at the debates in parliament and in the press and you think, what are these politicians doing who are supposed to be leading the country? They are dividing us even further by using race, religion, and then ignoring the rights of the East Malaysians in Sabah and Sarawak. And then even within our own country, we are divided between different types of Muslims, Salafis and Sunnis and Shias, and there seems to be no cohesion or even a direction. I think if you looked at the last events when the floods inflicted Selangor, where was the government? And what is it that the people voted for? And why was it that you get complaints even up till now that the aid that's supposed to have been given to these poor, unfortunate people has not been given? I mean, what is wrong with our country, and what is the right way to put it up? I think we need to understand that there are so many people now keen and interested in getting into the political arena. And I think that Muda has just got their...
Let me come to that. I've got a whole list of questions, but Siti, let me ask you this. You sound like you've given up on political parties. Am I right?
No, I don't. I haven't given up. I just say that the current political parties are not working in Malaysia because of their, policies or their way of running the political parties. Whoever knows how to scratch their boss's backside. Oh, sorry about this language, but that's the truth. Then only they can be appointed or given position. Some politicians, some MPs, I heard only the night before nomination they will know that they are going to be appointed at that particular constituency. That's not how it should be. I mean, you actually choose your representatives based on their abilities, on their conscience, based on their quality as well. You know, you don't base on whether you like that person or not, whether that person is on your side as a leader. So we have seen very poor performance MPs in our parliament who hardly attend the parliament session, as well as never say a word with regards to their constituencies issues. So these are the people that shouldn't be in parliament. It should be people who are passionate for the nation and for the people.
Okay, here I've got a question from one viewer. Said, and this is the question: many aspiring politicians come in with all sorts of great ideals and promises, and then the power and the money get to them and they behave exactly like the ones they replaced. Who will hold you responsible?
You know,
Well, not yet.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was vetted thoroughly by a committee before I was announced as a GI candidate, as was Siti and Charles and the other three candidates. So the process of choosing people to use the Gerak Independent name did not come easily. And, we are much more stringent than any political party in vetting the kind of people that we want to send to parliament.
Well, on my part, on top of what Tawfik had explained, that we went through vigorous selection. To selection, the vetting committee stands from basically very respected, upstanding citizens of Malaysia. And on top of that, I will say to these people, you never know what a person will be. Of course, no one knows. Even I myself don't know, but I know where I stand, how my own principles. But for example, if that person, whoever being elected, and then suddenly become a frog, or they did not, sort of honor what they have actually promised to the people. This is where I keep saying, the people, the rakyat, they have the power in their hands. Yeah. So come the next GE, kick that person out. Kick that that frog out. Kick the person who don't perform for you in the next election. This is why we have election, general election every 5 years or so. So this is why, where you use your power. You don't like this particular government, kick them out. Or particular person, kick them out, and then you bring in new face. And if this person is a good person who actually do the things they have said and actually try to make a change and show that there is performance in parliament, then you can re-elect that person. So this is why when somebody asks me, Siti, what if you lose? So what? At least I try. I try to help the country, my fellow Malaysians. What if, let's say, people don't like you? It's not a matter whether people like me or not. It's about whether what I am doing, whether I'm doing something good for the country or not. It is about, I want to walk the talk. I have always complained about this and that, and it doesn't work. You talk so much in WhatsApp group, you talk so much in Telegram, nothing will change. We have to actually put ourselves in the position where we can make the change. So that is why.
Let me ask you this now. You have said on your website that your goal is to win about 15 to 20 parliamentary seats so that you can act as a sort of kingmaker. Now, as you know, independents have traditionally not done well. In the Malacca state elections, all 22 lost their deposit. Independent candidates lost their deposit. So it's going to be a huge challenge going up against well-funded, well-oiled, well-organized political parties. What makes you think that you even stand a chance?
Well,
Chow,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Tawfik.
Okay.
Well, we do know that there is an uphill task for independence in this country, but the choice between being an independent and being a party nominee is something which is becoming more obvious as time goes on, because the people that you elected to parliament have shown what kind of people they are now. And these are the people that came in through a party system. And when the party, as Siti was explaining, thrusts you onto the people and you have no choice, and you vote according to symbol rather than on the personality, this is what you get in parliament. So when the independents go in, we are going in on our own personal commitment, and we are answerable to the people directly. We are not answerable to any party or any party discipline.
Dennis, may I add something to that answer to that question? What makes us think that we can win? Or what I think that we can win? I believe a major factor is that our people have changed. Voters have changed. They are wiser, they are more informed, they're more knowledgeable, and they are more connected. I believe that Malaysians are ready to reject the old politics. I believe that Malaysians deserve MPs who speak for them, who will give them that independent voice. And I think that you can see everywhere the Malaysians are fed up with the old politics, with the same old politicians dictating to them what they should do, how they should think, what they should vote. So I think that a major factor that will contribute to independence winning is that voters have changed. Voters have now become different. As you can see from the Undi 18, the extra 5.8 million voters coming, the landscape has changed. The youngsters, not just the youngsters, but those who have not voted before, you can see that they're going to change the entire voting scene in Malaysia, you know. That's why we will win.
One question that came in that might be related to this, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. That there's a concern that in the next election there's going to be so many parties, so many independent candidates, and some have expressed the concern that it could end up dividing the votes and splitting votes, and perhaps opening the door for UMNO to come in. In fact, one question I have is it better to consolidate the opposition so it has a better chance against UMNO BN? And here's another question that just came in too, asking, do you think candidates should belong to political parties? How strong is the voice of an independent candidate going to be? What are your thoughts?
May I start on that first, Dennis?
Sure.
Okay. This is the issue about vote splitting, right? Please let me explain. The politicians tell us that we have to vote. We must vote for either A or B. But what if the people are fed up with A and B? What if the people want C? What if they think that C is better than A and B? Shouldn't the people have that choice? Why must we let the politicians dictate to us how we vote and who we choose to represent us? If we fall back into the same old cliche about vote split, we will never get back. The people will never get back the power that the politicians have taken away from us. The same old Sheraton move is going to happen again. Remember the Sheraton moves? Say before the Sheraton move, the last elections, it was A and B. Then B became A. And at the end of the day, we have the same old things. So what's so great about having only two sides? What about the people's right to choose the real good candidate that they want to put in parliament, not somebody that the political party has chosen, but somebody that the people have chosen themselves? Why are we denying the people that choice?
What about you, Siti?
If I may add something about that, yeah. Actually, that kind of opinion or way of thinking that we are just out to split votes, you know. So it means that these people who think like that, insulting to people who actually think. Here we are fighting for Malaysia and for Malaysians. our politics is not just fragmented, but is clearly today mostly occupied by people who have no interest of the rakyat as their priority. Not all, but most of them are, be it in the government or opposition. Now it's time for Malaysians start thinking and acting for ourselves rather than having political parties become our middlemen whilst we and the nation pay the price. So choose the best person. There may be 100 candidates in your constituencies. Get to know all of them. Who do you think worthy of your very valuable vote? So that is where we need thinking Malaysians. Choose the person who you feel will be the best representative for you in parliament. That is really the answer. You can have hundreds of thousands of candidates, but you choose the best person, not based on logos or political parties. I will encourage Malaysians to think this way.
Tawfik, can I ask you this? Can I move on
Sure.
to the policies and the agenda of Gerak Independent? And I want to start off by talking about corruption. Now, as you know, that corruption is one of the most serious challenges we face as a nation. We have become a nation of kleptocrats, of cartels, of syndicates. Corruption is systemic, it's endemic, it's pervasive. We just saw the whole Azam Baki case, the MACC chief refusing to step down, refusing to appear before the select committee, acts with complete impunity. And there have been so many scandals, so many cover-ups. And I suspect that tomorrow's scandals are being hatched behind closed doors right now. So let me ask you this. Have we lost the war on corruption? Is corruption too ingrained to be eradicated?
Well, it appears that we are in a losing battle with corruption, but it's precisely because there is no moral compass that's been provided by any of the political parties. Those that profess to uphold an Islamic state say that corruption is all right. So this is the kind of weird and unlogical policies and preaching that has been going on to influence the minds of people that it's okay to be corrupt, as long as you are a Malay government or whatever the excuse is, or an Islamic government. And this is where I think we need to sit back for a little bit and look at the terrain and rebuild what needs to be rebuilt. For example, one of the things which my late father advised me to do was that before you go into politics, make sure that you are sufficiently independent financially, because you do not want to rely on anyone for your funding. So if you take that policy and you become an upright person who comes into politics for the sake of serving the country and not for making money, then I think you're putting the country on the right track. But it's when people go into politics to make money, which is the case right now, that is where the problem starts. And this is where party politics feeds on itself, because in order for you to survive in the party, you need money. And how do you get money? You become a minister, and then you get the contract and you give it to your followers. And then this one becomes a vicious circle. So we have to break that. That is why I think people need to be more open about the idea of non-party politicians in parliament.
So what would you do if to fight corruption if you had the opportunity?
Oh, you mean if I went into government?
Yeah, if you get elected.
Yeah,
how would you do things differently?
Well, a lot of the things that needs to be reformed are being talked about by NGOs like G25 and C4, and people like Siti Kasim have been going around and also voicing and giving views on how things can work out. But the fact is that these good ideas are not taken in by the government because people do not want to be told how to govern. And I think this is where humility plays a big part. That's number one. Number two, there needs to be a lot of trust between the electorate and the people who are being voted in, that you are going to do the work that you were elected to do, and that the constitution that you swore to uphold will be treated with respect and with the dignity that it deserves.
Siti, let me ask you this. What would you do to put an end to corruption? I know that we need to get the right people elected, but what specifically would you do?
As a lawyer, I see the problem now is because there is a fusion of powers, especially the Prime Minister has vast power and everything is under him right now. There is no separation of powers. So when, there must be a clear separation of powers in which the judiciary, the executive, and the parliament, okay? So when we have clear separation of powers, each one of them cannot influence any other bodies to be, influenced by their powers, basically. So this is what I will do. In fact, this would answer the question I see here. One of them is that what are the three most important things that GI would want? I say that a good government will actually, the first thing they will do, if I was in PH before I was in the government, the first thing I will do is to remedy all the problems that actually we are having with all these, powers under PM, under the PM powers, yeah. I will get rid of that. There must be an independent judiciary, independent police force, and so these cannot be influenced by politicians. So this, if we have this separation of powers, no one can influence anyone. If you look at USA, despite what Trump actually tried to do before, the judiciary stood up against him. And the enforcement agencies actually do what they need to do. So the problem here is that it is all meshed up, and no politicians want to do the right thing by actually propose for clear separation of powers within these agencies, so that no one can tell the PM cannot tell the police do this, or the PM cannot tell MACC do this or that. This is the problem in Malaysia. People must understand, if we don't have clear separation of powers, then we will have all these problems. It is all meshed up. Everything the PM says goes, or each ministry, they have a very like they have their own the mind of their own, basically. So they do what they like, So this is I think why we cannot actually change, because the system is a problem. It's a systemic problem. We have to repair the system first before we want to actually tackle the problems.
Charles, what's your take on this?
Okay, I think a major cause of corruption is leadership. It starts from the top. There's an old saying that if the top is crooked, the bottom is bent. So corruption is endemic in Malaysia mainly because our leadership does not seem to be taking it seriously. So the first thing that I would do if I were in Parliament is to reform Parliament. It has to start in Parliament. Parliament is, after all, the legislature. And most important, many people don't really seem to think about it, is that Parliament's duty is to scrutinize the Cabinet. Under the Federal Constitution, Cabinet reports to Parliament, not the other way around. So we see from the MACC fiasco, it was a failure of Parliament. Parliament summoned a certain leader of a law enforcement agency to Parliament, and what did he do? He said, "No, I'm not coming." And what did Parliament do? It was silent. They were silent. Legally, it was contempt of Parliament, and a warrant of arrest should have been issued. So if you want to change corruption, start at the top. Let's reform Parliament first. And to reform Parliament, get people inside there who will speak for the people, because the people need an independent voice in parliament, a voice of the people, not a voice of politicians.
Well, yes, this is the problem. You see, some people say we have to belong to a political party. What has the political parties done for you all these years? For 60 years, my friends. You know, even when PH was 22 months, you say only 22 months. 22 months, is quite a long time. But what have they achieved in that 22 months? A lot of talk. And because why? They have to listen to the so-called leadership. During the budget, when their leader said don't vote, they don't vote. People need to be reminded that these politicians in political parties must listen to what their bosses said. Whilst independent, we are not telling each other how to vote. We will tell you, use your conscience. And Charles gave a very good example of what did the Parliamentary Select Committee did to the so-called one boss in okay lah, just say lah, MACC kan. I mean, he was called by this so-called Parliamentary Select Committee. They have vast power. What do? They just they didn't do anything basically. They just kept quiet. They just talk and talk and talk. Just do something about it. You have the powers in your hand. Why aren't they doing anything? So this is why, number one, these political parties do not actually do what for us. They don't do anything for the rakyat. They do what we are not going to touch this so-called anything sensitive, because we may not be elected again, by these people, by a section of the people, because if they talk about religion, they will be accused of anti-Islam or anti-religion or anti-Malay or anything like that. But you have to speak up if that is the real issue of the country. You have to say it. You are elected to do that. Yes.
Let's move on to the issues of democracy now. As you know, our democracy is being slowly hollowed out with anti-democratic legislation. There's restrictions on free assembly. Opposition politicians and civil society groups are being harassed. Now, Gerak Independent has staked out a strong position to defend and protect our secular constitutional democracy. And Siti, you yourself have been quite fearless in standing up for the constitutional rights of all Malaysians. I want to share a short video, and so that viewers can get an understanding of the kind of person, the kind of boldness and strong positions that you have taken.
Tuan! Cik, saya tak benar kan?
Oh, kenapa you tak
Ini
benarkan?
arahan mahkamah, cik. Kami menjalan ke arah mahkamah.
Awak menahan hak saya untuk berjalan di negara
Tempat
saya.
ini hari ini diwatakan sebagai dilarang masuk.
Dilarang masuk untuk kereta. Bukan untuk berjalan. Bukan untuk
Tuan,
berjalan.
ambil order mahkamah. Cik, saya tak benarkan cik masuk.
Tak.
Cik, saya minta kerjasama
Sekarang ini
cik.
awak menghalang hak saya untuk berjalan.
Dengan baik.
Awak menghalang hak saya untuk berjalan. Mana mahkamah punya order?
Tuan, dia nak tengok arahan mahkamah kan?
So now you have been very bold, you've been very outspoken. What can ordinary citizens do to protect their democratic rights? You have used the law. Is that the way forward?
Yes, basically, people should be more aware of their rights in our country. We also must be empowered. We must empower the people to speak up. Do not be afraid of the authorities, because I'm not against the police. What I was doing was simply to speak up for my own rights. And having seen the order of the court, I know for certain I was right by insisting that I have the right to walk across Jalan Tunku Abdul Rahman and Dataran Merdeka, because the order specifically said that I cannot join the gathering for the Tangkap Azam Baki, which is specifically mentioned Sogo, Dataran Merdeka, as well as the Masjid Jami. So having read the order, I know for for certain my rights were denied by the police. But the problem is that I think even the police are not fully aware of the interpretation of the order itself. So we should actually not be in fear. Actually talking about or trying to stand up for our rights. In fact, I am now taking the police as well as the government of Malaysia to court for the police for stopping me at Dataran Merdeka from going through Dataran Merdeka. So this is another court action public interest matter which I am intending to do together with Ravi, the one who was with me the other day. So I don't think, not just because I'm a lawyer, I'm fully aware of my rights, but actually your rights is all about common sense. You just need to think about whether you feel this is right or wrong. Don't just accept. I notice a lot in Malaysia, in every places I go, people just accept, whatever being told to them, but not questioning them. This is something that we have to teach children in school to start questioning. But I don't think that is happening in our national schools, to have an inquiry mind amongst our nation and the children especially.
Tawfik, let me ask you this. This February 15th marks the fifth anniversary, I think, of the disappearance of Pastor Raymond Chow, and some of the other enforced disappearances remains unsolved, unanswered. There are other missing activists as well. It looks like we've come against a wall of silence. Have you or Gerak Independent spoken out against enforced disappearances? And what will you do with such cases if you get elected to Parliament?
Well, this is one of the big mysteries of Malaysian government, isn't it? I mean, people disappearing without trace, and we have aircraft that disappear without trace too. But the thing, it becomes quite absurd because the police are there to protect and defend you, and if you are seen to be a victim of some action which was taken by so-called black ops, then it shows that there is no government in the country. And I think this is something which is quite frightening. And I think in Parliament, the MPs have to voice out their concerns over issues such as this. But so far in Parliament, I have not heard many MPs coming up with this kind of questions. And I think this is where Gerak Independent wants to make a difference, because some of our members are quite vocal when it comes to freedom of choice and the freedom of the individual. People like Siti Kasim, KJ John, who's the other candidate in our lineup, and Charles, who teaches law in the university. I think we have enough brains in our lineup to be able to try to articulate and also try to make sense of what's going on.
Thank you. Siti, I have a question.
Yes, can I say something about the comment from YouTube? It says that we cannot wait for 5 years to kick out if one of your members does not perform. Now, I want to ask this person who questioned, what about those politicians that you have voted into Parliament right now? Can you kick them out before 5 years? You can't, right? So, it's the same thing. So, at least give new faces, not necessarily from my team, from our team in Gerak Independent, but also, demand for new faces rather than the old goats, the faces that are always, that have been in Parliament for donkey years but refuse to retire and think that they can get the salary every month, gaji buta, as we call it, but not doing their job. Look at Gua Musang. Look at the orang asli suffering with the tigers, eating them up, with the elephants going into their kampong. They say that they have not ever seen their MP actually, looking into them or talking to them or trying to help them. And this MP has been in position for how long? please lah. I think we need to actually start thinking again. Don't think that only political parties. What I'm saying. I have said this with my friend when we started this Gerak Independent idea. We say that we should try to do something different, to give an opportunity for Malaysian to see that there is another way instead of political parties. But if we don't succeed, never mind. At least we try. We try our best, and it shows that Malaysians do not want to change. They believe that doing over and over the same thing that can bring change. So then, good luck, Malaysians, if that's what you want. But at least I've tried my best to do the patriotic thing for my country. So, it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, but for me, we must try to do something different, something which no political party have the right to dictate to us on what to say or what to do in parliament for our nation, for the goodness of our nation, for Malaysians itself. Yeah.
Can I move on to the whole issue of Islamization, because there's been a lot of questions that have come in. Now, in your statement of goals, you were silent about the rapid Islamization of Malaysia, though both you, Siti, and Tawfik have been outspoken in your criticism of Jakim's outreach. Siti, you have clashed with the religious authorities a number of times. Tawfik, you have been sued, you've been probed for sedition for calling for Jakim to be abolished. Nevertheless, Jakim seems unstoppable. Their budget keeps increasing. It's 1.5 billion this fiscal year. That's more than the entire budget of the foreign ministry. Their influence keeps growing and now extends to every government institution and agency. I consider it to be the most powerful agency in the country today. And just recently, there was a report that they are planning to expand their influence in the education sector by introducing a new curriculum, a new syllabus in secondary schools. And then, of course, there's RU 355 and a host of other administrative measures imposing Islamic values, dress codes in schools and offices, and the whole sort of thing. Now, my question is, do you think Jakim has gone too far? Are we sliding towards an Islamic state?
Tawfik, you want to say first?
Yeah. I'll take that question first. I think we have to put things in perspective when it comes to Jakim. It is a government department. It is not a ministry. It is not an institution. And frankly, Jakim has got no constitutional authority whatsoever when it comes to government of religion, because that goes to the rulers of each state. That is what the Constitution says. And I think Jakim's overreach is only because it is used as a political tool by the politicians. The minister in charge of religion, in charge of Jakim, doesn't have much power at all under the Constitution. Please
they don't have power at all.
Yeah, they don't have any power at all. So I think we are making something grand which should not exist at all. Now, when I fought Hadi's RUU 355 motion, I went through the legal process with my lawyers. And the first thing was that the Constitution says that anything to do with religion needs the consent of the Council of Rulers. And before Hadi put up the paper, he did not even approach the Conference of Rulers. And the surprising thing is the person who seconded the bill, Taqiyuddin, who later became Minister of Law, was totally oblivious to this fact. And I think we all can see from the record what his knowledge was of the Constitution when it came to talking about the emergency proclamation. So when you have people like this who go and are the lawmakers of the country, and this is where the laws start in Parliament, the lawmakers don't even know what the constitution is, then something is definitely wrong in Parliament. And I think this is where the reform has to start. As Charles had said earlier on, and as Siti has said in her statement earlier on, I think when it comes to the Islamization of this country, the constitution is very clear. There is nothing that says that the constitution of Malaysia is not Islamic in its character. It is written by and adopted by people that believe in the principles of Islam, but they do not believe in the fact that Islam should be an overreaching ideology on the people. But it's the politicians that have twisted it around to make JAKIM more powerful than it should be. In fact, it has got absolutely no constitutional power. Power over religion is the rulers of each state. And you talk about Islamization in this country, what is keeping it from becoming a Taliban state is the fact that we are a federal system with 9 different sultans, 13 muftis. All of them cannot agree on simple issues of religion, which means that if the more they're divided and the more they cannot agree on precepts, then this country will never take the step that people fear of becoming a Taliban state. And no matter how hard PAS tries to push the argument, it will not happen.
Charles, I want to ask you this. Past leaders often warn non-Muslims to stay out of the whole Islamic State debate because it does not concern them. And of course, many non-Muslims also keep quiet because it is one of those so-called sensitive issues. How should non-Muslims respond to the relentless efforts of agencies like JAKIM to Islamize Malaysia at the expense of our constitutional moorings?
Well, I think non-Malays will have to just refer back to the Constitution. It's very simple. The Constitution is very clear about things like that. It's just that I think there is a lack of constitutional knowledge or education. The Constitution says Islam is the religion of the Federation, but other religions may be practiced in peace and harmony in any part of the Federation. And also, if you look at, that's Article 3, Religion of the Federation. And you will see Article 3, Clause 4 saying, nothing in this article derogates from any other provision of this Constitution. Which means this clause, even though it recognizes that Islam is the religion of the Federation, all other religions can be practiced in peace and harmony and without restriction. So if anybody restricts, for example, the distribution of the Bible, then it is wrong, it is unconstitutional. So for non-Muslims, they can rely on the Constitution to protect their rights as well.
Siti?
Yeah, okay. I will start. Where are we going? We are going into the rabbit hole, okay, in which we probably cannot come out if we don't stop this movement to so-called Islamize. I put it in a quote because I don't believe the Islam they are portraying in Malaysia is the true Islam. Okay, okay. Why are they flourishing? These ulama and JAKIM and all that. These JAKIM is just a tool used by our politicians. Okay, don't say BN or what. They are all the same. Look at during PH. In fact, they gave the highest allocation to JAKIM during their power. The 22 months, 1.4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So they are all using JAKIM because these people in power see it as the easiest way to win votes. And they fund the expansion of religion in education and governance with our tax money for the last 40 years. Politics for them is not about thinking critically how to progress the nation and its people. It's about how to raise emotions the easiest way. Religion is the most base emotional tool for them. And then it became a monster that all the politicians are scared to do the right thing, both in government and the opposition. No one dares to say anything to change the hegemony of the religious industrial complex that we have today. So, as what Taufik has said, I have been advocating for separation of religion and state. And what I mean by that is that our federal government do not have business in managing religion, any religion. The constitution say Islam is under the Sultan's purview. Give it back to the sultans. This is what the constitution says, not the federal government looking after religion, any religion. If we can do this, we will be better off in the future, because the federal government then cannot use this emotion, using religion as their tool to get election or votes in the future. Their job is to actually making sure Malaysians, economically better, living better, healthier, and everything, including environment, everything. This is where we must demand our government to do the right thing. And also the separation of powers will come in as well. When we have good judges, we have good interpretation and by the judges. For example, currently I believe that we have really a good bunch of judiciary, at the bench, because they have come out very good interpretation of the laws lately. But then when you have another batch of judges, we don't know, are they going to be influenced by the government or the politicians? This is why, it's a systemic problem. We need to repair this first. So Jakim is not really, the problem. The problem are the politicians. They don't want to do anything with regards to Jakim. That is the problem.
Thank you. Your manifesto does not talk specifically about race relations and national unity, though it does contain a pledge to end divisive politics. Now, after more than half a century of UMNO BN rule, the general conclusion is that our nation is now hopelessly divided by race and religion, and we have all sorts of controversies, including chopsticks and endless, and many are losing faith in the nation's future. Hundreds and thousands have already left. And Tawfik, you carry the proud legacy of your father for respect and tolerance, of the stand he took against the so-called ultras, as they were known then. What do you think needs to be done to reverse the decline in inter-ethnic relations and ending this religious extremism and start building back better? Are you confident it can be done?
Well, we approach the problem with a certain amount of optimism, because if you look at what happened in the last few months when the floods inflicted our country, people of all races came out to help each other without any prompting from the government. I mean, they did it without the government. And people are saying, what do we need government for? People are quite good at managing themselves. And I agree, these are the core values in Malaysia which are still there, which are still prevalent. You still read stories of Malay people helping poor, destitute, non-Malay children in the streets, and vice versa. You see Sikh temples being opened up for people to eat during the floods. There are Malays that actually go into the drains to rescue pets, even though some Islamists will say that those animals are not things that you can touch. But it shows that common sense and a good nature is part of the Malaysian psyche, and this is something that we can build upon. So it is not a lost cause, as a lot of people would like to think, but it is prejudice and a low emotional intelligence that causes people to become frightened and suspicious of each other. And this kind of feeling of divide and rule and making people dependent on authority is what kept parties like UMNO in power for a long time. And I think this
Now,
is something that
what would the three of you say to all those Malaysians, and we've got many of them listening from abroad, but what will you say to those Malaysians, to your fellow citizens who have given up on Malaysia?
well, I'd say if you've given up living in Malaysia, don't give up the idea of Malaysia. When you're overseas, always try to compare what your adopted country has offered to you compared to what Malaysia has done for you before you left. And I think some of those memories might be sweeter than you think. And I think people who have lived overseas have a yearning to come back because, I mean, the culture of multiracialism in Malaysia is something very unique, which you don't find in any country outside of here. It is, if you think that you can live a good life in Canada or Australia, the racial prejudice there, I think, is even worse, especially when the COVID thing came out. If you look Chinese, well, immediately you were slammed by the whites. I mean, what over here, we don't jump on our Chinese friends because of COVID or whatever. We don't blame the Chinese for spreading the disease. But look at what's happened in the West. So, I mean, paradise is where where your mind and where your heart is. So, if you're part of the Malaysian diaspora, be like the Vietnamese diaspora. Make money out of the country that you were born in by helping it to trade better with the country that you are living in right now. Maybe if you don't want to come back, that's fine, but at least have some kind of compassion for the people who are left behind and try to make things better for us over here.
Well, okay, go on, Charles. Yes.
I'm very optimistic. I believe that Malaysia is a great country. It has been a great country for so long. It has produced such good doctors, lawyers, teachers, businessmen. If you go to Port Klang, you see the things moving around. It's because of the competence of Malaysians. You cannot ignore the fact that Malaysia has achieved greatness in a lot of areas. So I would say to all Malaysians, whether overseas or here, that I believe that Malaysia is on the threshold of change for the better. The young coming out with Muda, they're stepping up in politics. They're going to the protests to talk against corruption, to talk about their rights, the way they're organizing themselves. And there are going to be a new electoral bloc that will make a big difference in this country. Not just the young, the old, the middle age. You can see that there is a significant difference, a realization that the country is on the verge of change. You know, I think that I'm very, very happy to see what's happening in the country, with people talking, speaking up. And of course, now Malaysia has also changed because now we are so much more connected by social media, you know, and just from the reaction of Malaysians to the floods itself, look at how Malaysians were mobilized, irrespective of race or religion. In my neighborhood, everywhere I see my nephew going into the flood with his truck, and after a few attempts, the floods were too deep and inundated his truck, and he nearly drowned. He got away, but his truck was destroyed. I mean, so many. My brother's house lost in Klang, but the good thing is Malaysians are coming forth and helping each other. Malaysians will change the government. Malaysians will change the country. I'm very positive. I'm very hopeful about Malaysia?
Siti?
Well, okay. As someone that has lived in the UK for 17 years, I can tell you that all the Malaysians that I know over there, they all have the craving to come back home. And living there, nothing like the life in Malaysia. You will miss the food, you will miss the jokes. Only Malaysians can understand, okay? And I can tell you on the grassroots, on the ground, generally people are, we are okay to each other, no matter what race, no matter what faith you have, and despite what people think the Malays hate me, I've been to many kampongs, even in Pasir Mas, in Kelantan, I have received nothing but wonderful reception from them. So it is something that I think the public must not give up. And even you live here or in Malaysia, overseas, the only power you have, which is your voting power, do not waste it. Do not waste it. Start with your family and your friends, encourage them to go out and vote for the right person for the betterment of our country. So I have great faith, I have friends who are from various races and also faith. And I think the moment we act as if they are our brothers and sisters, you will get the same thing as well. But the politicians are just trying to divide us so that you will say, oh, this political party is the one who's going to save my religion, or my faith, all that. These are just rhetoric. They are lying to you. All these years the Malays are the leaders. What have they done for us? This is the thing that I think more information to be given out to the Malays. A lot of people think that the most richest in Malaysia are the Chinese. But if you look at the statistics given out by our government themselves, it actually shows the biggest T20 group, the most are the Malays. These are the orang kayangan. But there is a very small number in M40, but a huge number of Malays in B40. But the Chinese and the Indians, they are about the same. The T20, the M40, and the B40. Why is that? We have to tell our Malay brethren that they have been cheated and lied to by their leadership. They are the one who cheated the Malays themselves. Melayu
Siti, I
tipu
have a
Melayu.
question for you. There's a
Yes.
question that just came in that I want to ask you. It says, this is a question from a Mr. Koo. How will you promote inclusiveness, bring people together for a common cause, given your divisive and abrasive approach?
Tell me what is divisive and abrasive approach? Tell me, what have I done? What have I said? That so-called accusing me as divisive and abrasive. Tell me.
This question came in
Don't
by
just
email.
accuse me. Give me an example. So
This question came in by email, so I'm afraid I can't respond to your questions.
yeah,
But this
obviously.
was the question
Yes.
that came
So
in.
it is so easy to accuse one person as being divisive and abrasive. As far as I remember, all this while, I have been talking about inclusiveness, about all of us thinking ourselves as Malaysians. There are many people who don't like what I am doing, because they are afraid of losing their status, or this kind of questions is normal. As far as I'm concerned, I have never done anything divisive or abrasive. Maybe they don't like my voice because I speak in a loud voice and very what do you call it, strong expression as well. You don't like my character? I'm so sorry. I'm not out to please you. But listen to what I say. What I have said, are they divisive? Okay. Maybe you just don't like me, my character. I'm sorry you don't like me as I am. I'm not out to please people. What I want is for our country to be as successful nation and a progressive nation. If if the Malays feel that I am being divisive, no, I'm not. I'm not against my own religion and I'm not against my own faith. What I want is that equality for all Malaysians, policies which will work for Malaysia, not just for one section of the society. Is that wrong? Is that un-Islamic? I think Islam actually believe in equality as well. So these people who do not want the right thing to be implemented in Malaysia, they are the one who are divisive and they are the one who are abrasive and aggressive and forcing us to actually follow what they want us to do, especially as a Malay. I said that I am being oppressed. I am the most oppressed as a Malay. I am being told there are laws towards me, the way I what I eat, how I dress, even how to think. I am being told by these religious people that I have to follow their way. No, I will not follow your way because faith is personal to me. Is that being divisive? I'm telling you, you can actually think the way you want to think, but you don't force it on people like me who don't agree with you. So is that being divisive? Well, tepuk dada tanya selera. Yeah.
Finally, I want to talk to you very briefly about economic policy. Now, there's been much discussion about moving away from race-based policies like the NEP towards needs-based approach. So far, no one seems to have had the courage to make the change. Now, here's a question I received on this issue from somebody called Martin. Is Gerak Independent willing to take the bull by the horns and commit to making and implementing radical changes like moving from race-based policies to needs-based policies?
I think the first target that we need to focus on is how to convince the Malays that making money is better than learning the Quran to go to heaven in this world, because you have a choice right now whether you want to be holy or you want to be rich. Now, if we turn the Malay mind to material well-being and progress, I think we will be able to take away the sting of religion from the Malaysian politics, because there is nothing more leveling than the search and pursuit for a better life for yourself and your family. And I think this is where it has to start. So when we try to rebalance the economy, we have to start by educating the Malays that it is better for them to send their children for engineering than to be religious teachers. And it is better for them to learn arithmetic and mathematics rather than scripture. And I think this is where education priority has been warped for the last 40 years, because look at neighboring Singapore. When they became independent, what did Lee Kuan Yew do? He sent his scholars to do engineering and law. Now, why did he send them to do engineering? And engineering thinks in terms of how a problem can be solved. And what happened in Singapore is that when an engineer there faces a problem that he doesn't understand, what he does is he breaks it down to its smallest component, rebuilds it to something he understands, and then maintains it. Now, what kind of thinking is that which is not applicable to Malaysia? If we had more technocrats and more people who were trained to be useful with their hands rather than going to the kampongs to preach nonsense, I think this would be a step up towards an economic equality for the people that matter the most, which is the poor. And right now, when we talk about numbers and we talk about Malays who are going to form the majority of the electorate and who are going to make the key decisions, we have to start from there.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yes, please.
I don't know whether we have time, but Dennis, if you can put up the 5 pillars of Gerak Independent, believe in, this is the pillar. I don't know whether the viewers can actually see. I can guarantee you these are what we stand for. So what we stand for is what we will uphold if we are elected into parliament, and these are the things that we will base on our decision. So in order for us to champion the issues or make it happen, we have to be in the government. Of course, being such a small number for a start right now, it is difficult for us to form a government. But of course, we will work with people of like-minded from any other parties. So we are not isolated in a sense. We are open to work with parties who are like-minded, who wants the best for the nation. So these are the things that people need to understand, that we are not against your favorite party or against the any party. Basically, we are for policies which are right for Malaysia, for all Malaysians. So whether this party or that party comes out with the idea, we will support. If it's not, then we will not support. So we will certainly uphold what we believe, especially based on the 5 pillars. Yes.
So, in closing, what's your message to the people of Malaysia, the voters of Malaysia?
I think Charles, why don't you go ahead and...
Okay. I think Malaysians need an independent voice in Parliament, and we have to return the power back to the people. So it is time. You have to vote for people who care about the needs of the people and not the needs of the politicians. So please, Malaysians, let's do this. Let's put the independent in Parliament.
Right. I will add on to that. When we talk about independence, we are talking about our group, the Gerak Independent, because we went through vigorous vets and all that, and we have manifestos to show these are what we aspire for. I would urge Malaysians to actually choose the right person for your MP, because this person is your mouthpiece in Parliament, and Parliament is where we can make the change if we want to. So the more you put in the right people in Parliament, no matter from whichever party or independent, if you believe that person is the right one, who will be courageous enough to speak up for you in Parliament, you vote for that person. Don't vote based on logos or political parties, because right-minded people can form a government if they are together. They can actually form a government despite people thinking that only political parties can form a government. Independents can form a government if they are of like-minded people. So this has happened in other countries. It is not something new. It is something new in Malaysia. So Malaysians need to think that, number one, choose the right person. Number one, basically don't waste your vote, go out and vote. Number two, choose the right person that can actually be courageous enough to speak up on all issues, whether it's so-called sensitive or not. They will actually voice for you. These are the important things that I want you to take home tonight.
When I started this evening, I said that we were a broken nation and that we should apply the principles of kintsugi, which is the art of rebuilding and bringing together the pieces which are broken into something which is more beautiful than the original. And I think that can be done. And Gerak Independent can be the glue to putting these pieces together, because we represent the age of people who were born just after independence and who have seen through a lot of the changes that took place in this country from 1957, 1963, when Malaysia was formed. And we have people in Gerak Independent who have a moral compass. Now, democracy can be quite messy, because even in countries like the US, you can produce someone like Trump. So there's no guarantee that that Malaysia will be any different. But we need to be able to have some kind of assurance that the way that we are projecting ourselves in Gerak Independent, we are opening the door also to other people that want to serve but cannot, because the party system is so restrictive, and you have to go through a certain filtration process before you can go from being a mere drop to being someone substantial in Parliament. And look at the end result. The MPs are not people that you can be proud of. Look at the way the government is being formed. You have a lot of bottom feeders in Parliament from a very stagnant pond. And what happens when you have a stagnant pond? The fish are rotten. And when you have rotten fish, this is the diet that you're feeding the people. It is not very wholesome. Now what we need to do is to put fresh water inside the pond. And what is the source of that fresh water? Gerak Independent. We are the ones who can provide an opportunity for people who think and who have creative ideas to come and serve. And even though we've limited ourselves at the moment to 6, I think we can take a few more. Isn't that right, Siti? Maybe another 6 more?
Yes, we have said earlier on when we launched that we try to start with a small number, which is maybe not more than 10. But right now we have 6. We welcome, qualified and quality people to actually join us. If you feel that you have the right capabilities, things to represent the rakyat, because you have to remember, when you become an MP, you under Gerak Independent, we believe the MPs, the member of parliaments, are the servants of the rakyat. They are not the bosses. They are not to be kowtowed. Like what we used to see, like YB. That really for me. I mean, they are supposed to be kowtowing to you as the rakyat, not the rakyat kowtow to them, because you are the one who choose him or her to represent you. So, we have to change this culture. We have to tell the people they are the bosses, not the MPs, okay? The MPs are serving the rakyat, not the other way around.
Well, on that note, Tawfik, Siti, Charles, thank you for speaking to Critical Conversations. And to all our viewers, thank you for listening in and for all your questions and comments. Now, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook page for information on upcoming episodes. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.